morning, one and all. COVID-19 crisis is having a devastating effect on all social and economic sectors. The strict lockdown to contain the spread of COVID-19 are wreaking havoc on world's economy. It is pushing many households below the absolute poverty line and will likely to increase inequality. During the lockdown period, 90% of our economic activities they have come to a grinding halt. So today in this session of VS International College, we have invited an economist from University of Delhi to talk on the issue and impact of COVID-19 on economy. He is here to talk on how a health crisis is now being translated to an economic crisis. But before we begin with this session, let me introduce Dr. Mr. Anand Kumar to all of you. He is an associate professor at University of Delhi, a man with 29 years of teaching experience, and he has many scholarly published papers to his credit. He has done his PhD from HNBG University of Srinagar and has done MPhil from University of Delhi. He has been associated with many reputed colleges of Delhi, but at present he is working as a full-time faculty member of College of Vocational Studies, University of Delhi. As a principal, I welcome you to this online session of our college. I welcome you and I'm looking forward to hear your views on this particular issue, which is growing day by day. Welcome once again. Thank you.
I wish to thank you, all of you, for giving me this opportunity to present my topic on this COVID-19 and economic impacts on various countries. I have already been introduced by Dr. Anamika. I would like to tell you one thing, that I did my MPhil from Delhi School of Economics, and I got first division, and it was a record-breaking marks given to me. And then I did my PhD from HN Himbati Nandan Bhoguna Garhwal Central University, and I have been teaching in so many places in Delhi University itself, which already have been told by Dr. Anamika.
One small correction. One small correction. I haven't done my PhD. I did my MPhil from Anthropology, University of Delhi, but I was not able to complete my PhD. So I'm not a doctor. I've only done my MPhil. So you can call me Anamika.
But it is my earnest wish that you must complete your PhD as early as possible.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You do that. You do that. It is always beneficial to have a PhD degree in teaching line. In other line there may not be some, but in teaching it is almost a must. And you know what is happening, what is going to happen in coming years, that even jobs will not be given, teaching jobs will not be given without PhD. UGC is planning, University Grant Commission in Delhi is planning to formulate some policy under which without PhD permanent jobs may not be given. Of course, it didn't apply to you, but I was just telling to all the students, particularly those who wish to pursue higher education. Okay, let's come to our topic again. Basically, our discussion today will center around the following key points. What is pandemic COVID-19? How has it spread and grown more dangerous? What has been its economic impacts on various industries in various economies? And finally, what the government's role can be to reduce such adversaries. Basically, we are in a situation which has, at least in last 50 years, it is unprecedented. Therefore, even many governments are unable to know what to do. So before we we come straight away about the current situation, let us have a dive into human history a little bit. Let's come back to 16th century, the American plague outbreak. The European explorers were traveling to the Western Hemisphere. With them, they brought a cluster of diseases, including smallpox, which was later known as American plague. This led to the collapse of Inca and Aztec civilizations, the two small civilizations which were in that area. Some estimates suggest that 90% of the indigenous population in that Western Hemisphere were killed off by that disease. Imagine the impact of the plague outbreak on those smaller and closed economies. In time, Spanish, of course, took over the territories of both the empires. Then we move ahead 1720 to 1723. The story of Great Plague of Marseille, a city in France. A ship named Grand Saint Antonio docked the Marseille, carrying a cargo of goods from the eastern Mediterranean. The French found out that the cruise ship is carrying a disease and the ship was quarantined. But the plague still got into the city, maybe through the fleas and plague-infected rodents. It spread quickly, becoming an epidemic, killing almost 30% of the population of Marseille and surrounding cities. Then again we move to 1889 and 1890 period, the flu pandemic. We have entered in a modern age, and transportation was bit easier. The world became smaller, but that also meant that it was much easier for the disease to spread. And what was just an outbreak or an epidemic in the earlier ages become a pandemic in just few months. Influenza wreaked havoc. More than 10 lakh people died. It reached a peak in just few weeks. The entire world got affected, even though there was no air travel at that time. Then we move to 1918 and 1920, the Spanish flu, the most deadly flu till the time today. People were still recovering from the aftermath of World War I, and the Spanish flu pandemic broke out. 50 crore people were infected around the world. And out of those 50 crore, 20%, imagine, 10 crore people collapsed. In India, there is an estimate that 1.5 crore people collapsed during that period, 1918 and 20. Imagine the impact of flu, Spanish flu, almost 100 years ago on this world. And then let's come to the present situation, 2019, the coronavirus. The COVID-19 pandemic, CO from corona, VI from virus, and D from disease. This is how the name was given, COVID-19. That started in the last month of 2019. This is the pandemic we are in and the topic for our further discussion. The crisis, which started in the last month of 2019 in Wuhan city of China, has spread throughout the world in just a few months. Its spread has hit all economies, large and small, all around the world. There is no accurate medical solution to this problem till date. This is the irony of the problem that we are facing. In just 6 months of outbreak of this virus, roughly 66 lakh people got infected and 3.9 lakh people died world over due to this virus. More than 1 lakh deaths have been reported in US alone. Besides US, the other top 5 worst hit countries are Britain, Italy, Brazil, France, and Spain. At one time, even the Prime Minister of Britain was found corona infected, and he had to go under a strict medical treatment and was put on ventilator. After spending 3 weeks, he was cured of the disease, and having 14 days of quarantine further, he got to his office. Imagine the level of spread. Now, if we look at the data showing affected cases and death due to the corona pandemic for 21 most hit countries, I request Anamika to share that table if it is possible. Hello?
Abhinay sir, can you share that table that I asked you to share? Yes, he's doing, sir.
Please share that table, otherwise I will go ahead.
No, he's doing it, sir.
It is coming on, has it been shown on the table?
Yes, yes, it's there.
It is not coming on my screen. Basically, this is the table. This is the table drawn from worldometer.org. If you see that site, you find that there are 200 countries listed in order of total cases. If you see this table, you find that the USA is most affected country, where roughly 19 lakh people are infected. This table is updated every day. If anyone is interested, one can go through this table, one can see that table, an updated version may be seen. This table I have taken last one day, on 3rd of June, I have taken this table. So there may be, some more corrections. Instead of 18.8 lakh, there might be 19 lakh, something like that. But it is a suggestive. You see that under this table shows that what is the level of infection country-wise. We have taken just 21 countries which are most hit by this pandemic. Right? We find that the percentage of population affected by the virus ranges between 2.1% in Qatar to 0.006% in China. In US and European countries, this is approximately 0.6%. In India, this percent is very, very less. It is just 0.02%. It is difficult to rely on Chinese data because Chinese have said that it is 0.006%. The reason is very obvious. The government in China controls everything, including media. And if actual data is revealed, then it will be against the country's reputation. This is what the government thinks in China. And therefore, they suppress the actual data and do not let the world know about what is happening in China. First, they said that Wuhan is free, and therefore they unlocked the city in month of February, which they closed in month of December. And then again, when the virus is spread very quickly, then again they closed the city. People are hardly able to know in the other part of the world what is happening in China. The data of the cases in the world further shows that the percentage of death out of total infected population. We have calculated two columns, last two columns if you see, there you find that percentage of infected people out of total population and percentage of death out of total infected people. So this data we have calculated, and we find that France, Belgium, UK, Italy, Mexico have experienced more than 10% death, whereas in Spain, America, Brazil, Canada, Germany, and Iran, this ratio is above 5%. India and other countries are facing less than 3% death, around it is 2.8% to be exact, out of the total infected people. The world figure on this count is 5.9%, which means out of 100 people infected, roughly 6 persons are unable to survive. Nepal's position is, of course, far better as far as infected cases are concerned. It stands on 88th position out of 200 countries where the people are infected by this virus. These data have been taken from, as I already told you, from worldometer.org. You can remove this table if you wish to. Hello? Fine. People must have seen this table, and people in Nepal must be, must sigh a point of relief that their position is not so bad. Their position is very good. When a disease hit an epidemic scale or a pandemic scale, the governments have to be ready and willing to take immediate measures to curtail the initial spread of the disease. And the severity of the present crisis can be understood in the decisions taken by major economies in the world. Almost all countries which are infected by this virus have decided to lock down. However, some countries like US, Italy, France, Britain, they took a lot of time to decide the lockdown. Initially, they were hesitant that there will be a huge crisis of economic losses. But ultimately, there was no choice. They had to lock down. But by the time they locked down, there was a lot of losses in terms of human life. In the month of April and May, we have witnessed the crying situations in Italy, Britain, France, and US, where the people were not getting medical help and army personnel were deployed to transport dead bodies, and mass burials took place in many cities of the world. In 2017, Victoria Fan and Dean Jamieson and Lawrence Summers recently estimated in one of their studies that the expected yearly cost of pandemic influenza is roughly $600 billion, including both lost income and the intrinsic cost of elevated mortality. There are times when the health impact of an outbreak is controlled over time. Even during those times, its economic consequences can quickly become magnified. Liberia, for example, saw GDP decline of 8% points from 2013 and 14 during the Ebola outbreak in that area, in that period. The economic impact of a pandemic is not only immediate, but also spans over a period of time, which involves cost to the economy and the people. The recovery can be, of course, slow. This time, what is the scene we are still have to experience. It is not yet clear that whether recovery will be slow or not. First of all, we have to wait for this epidemic to end. However, the exact data support is not available to tell what the economic damage from the global COVID-19 pandemic will be. There is widespread agreement among economists that it will have severe negative impacts on all economies this time. And just like any other pandemic, the consequences of the outbreak is also not distributed equally. While most sectors and industries suffer at very high level, some may be even benefited from this outbreak. Let us look at a few of such impacts. Let's see how this pandemic is affecting our economies. Unemployment rates are skyrocketing to unprecedented level. People are saying that this such type of crisis on the level of unemployment have been witnessed during Great Depression. Due to this, the global poverty will rise this time by at least 3% points, meaning thereby an increase of more than 200 million additional people living in extreme poverty. The IMF has described the decline of economic activities and rise in unemployment due to the pandemic, the worst since the Great Depression of 1930s. The world total GDP is expected to fall by 8.8%. This is the estimate given by UNIDO, United Nations Industrial Development Organization, that world GDP will fall by 8.8%. Is not that growth will take place, it is rather decrease in GDP. World trade volumes are expected to drop by more than 30% as per the WTO estimate, and this figure that 30% will fall for this financial year 2020. The capital flow to the developing countries has decreased drastically because mostly the capital was coming from advanced nations. Now slowdown is being witnessed in these countries itself, severely impacting the capital flow out of these economies. We can understand the developed countries themselves are suffering from economic slowdown. So how they can outflow their capital? So it is the capital required in their country itself. And this is the reason that WTO has estimated that there will be a fall of 30%. Since there is no exact solution to this disease and the spread of virus is very fast, most countries have decided to lock down. The lockdown means people are forced to stay at homes. Most of the production units were shut down. Only essential units were allowed to function. Essential units such as medical shops, ration shops, etc. Obviously, the impact of this lockdown is very, very severe. While all industries have been affected by COVID-19 pandemic, some have to bear the burden of the downturn much more than others. The impact is very heavy in services and manufacturing sector. The agriculture sector is also likely to suffer because of its interdependency with manufacturing and service sector. We will, for the time being, concentrate on those sectors which are being hit heavily. The most suffered sector is the service sector. Under the service sector, tourism, transportation, aviation, hotel, restaurant and bar, financial services, retail businesses, marketing services, advertising, entertainment, laundry services, IT and BPO, legal and other consultancy services, all are affected heavily. In India, this sector employs 25% of the workforce, but the contribution in GDP last year was 62%. 25% of employment and 62% of GDP contribution. This is the figure of the last year in India's GDP. By an estimate, due to lockdown, the employment and in turn production both have decreased by more than 50% in the service sector. With this count, GDP of the country is estimated to fall by 30% during the period of lockdown, and employment should fall by 12.5%. Since most of the service industries are in private sector, so it could not sustain the lockdown, and people were rendered jobless due to temporarily suspension of services during the period of lockdown. The travel industry has been very, very badly hit, with airlines cutting flights and customers canceling business trips and holidays. The tourism industry in many developing countries had proved to be very important industry in terms of contribution in GDPs. It has contributed 5% in India, the tourism industry I'm talking about, and 70% in Maldives. There are many countries in the world which thrive on tourism industry. One important economic aspect about the industry I want to tell you is that it is a labor intensive industry where the ratio of manpower to the capital is very high. The industry characters are such that very high levels of skill and technology are not needed. This condition is highly conducive to the middle and lower middle class of the society. It is a fact that maximum manpower do come from this section in almost every country. And when the crisis like corona pandemic is spread, the tourism industry suffered the most, and the middle and lower middle class had to bear the maximum burn, maximum suffering. According to the World Travel and Tourism Council, WTTC, the COVID-19 pandemic could cut 60 million jobs globally in the travel and tourism industry. The virus is hitting organizations hard from all over the world. They face a complicated year ahead. It will take up to 1 year for the sector to return to its normal level even after the pandemic is over. The reason is very simple. Tourism is a luxury and people will start taking tours and travel only when they feel very, very safe throughout the places. More or less, the same story is found in case of manufacturing. However, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic in some industries in manufacturing sector were not that severe. The highest sufferer, of course, are MSME, micro, small, medium enterprises. Automobile sector, construction, steel, real estate sector, electronics industries, furniture and fixture industries, jewelry, garments, and petroleum industries have been bearing the burn the most. Under manufacturing sector, however, some industries were less affected. These are FMCG, fast moving consumer goods, food processing industry, and to some extent paper industries. Some, of course, industries did not have that much impact. And of course, there are few industries under manufacturing sector which got positive impact due to the pandemic. One such industry is pharmaceutical industry and medical and equipment accessories, and laboratories, establishing of medical laboratories as well. Since large number of industries under manufacturing sector were completely closed due to lockdown, so on an average, the production and employment in this sector saw a huge decline in the period of lockdown. For example,
Excuse me, sir.
we can cite, hello?
Excuse me, sir. So
Yeah,
sorry
please.
to intervene. In Zoom, we have 40 minutes of time limit for right now. So that's why we will have to just rejoin back. So after we rejoin back, you can continue, and we can continue with the question answers round also.
So
You
should
can
I,
rejoin
need
with
to-
using the same
should I-
link. Using the
have a
same
break
link.
on that? What do you want? Should we have a break or what?
No,
Should I
sir. No,
continue?
sir. We will just end the meeting for a short few seconds, and then we will rejoin back using the same link, sir.
Right now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Fine.
Please use the same link. All the participants are requested to use the same link to rejoin back. Just a few seconds, and please rejoin back.
Okay, fine. And that industry falls under pharmaceutical category. We find that people becomes highly aware about their personal and social hygiene. They have started to adopt such behavior in their day-to-day life that makes pharmaceutical industry grow. We have seen that almost every person is wearing a face mask. Every person is keeping social distances. Every person is using sanitizers. The production of PPE kits and face masks have increased many folds. And there have been new establishments of many medical laboratories to test the coronavirus. In India, before this pandemic, there was hardly one lab. Now it is 1,000 labs which are which are equipped to test coronavirus. There has been a turn to adopt new technologies. This is another benefit of this virus, this pandemic. Governments around the world have urged its employees to work from home wherever is possible. And private sectors were also urged to ask their employees to work from home. Similarly, the shares in technology companies such as Zoom, which we are using now, have shot up as more people rely on video conferencing and emails to hold meetings or get tasks done through online. The demand for online shopping and entertainment has also soared as people stay indoors. People do not have much choice. They cannot go out for shoppings and all that. So they demand online goods and mostly goods. With all these in mind, let us look towards the policy measures that can be applied and how the government role can become urgent and important. So all in all, there is huge demand shock due to shutdown of all key economic activities that drive the growth of an economy. To bring demand back, there is a need of huge amounts of fiscal and monetary support from the governments and central banks all over the world. Such monetary and physical support has to be at two stages. Firstly, during the period of crisis, the economic policy has to be such that people who are rendered unemployed are given some concrete support in terms of transfer of that much amount of cash which is required to fulfill their basic needs. Another way may be to distribute ration and organize food stalls. However, for distribution of cash, the government should have an efficient transfer mechanism. If a person has a bank account, then there is no problem. The transfer can be done easily. But if not, then problem continues. We know there are many countries in the world where crores of people do not have their bank accounts. And then in this case, the problem will certainly be there, how to transfer cash to them efficiently. This is the question, efficient transfer of cash. And for distribution of ration packets and running the food stalls, there is a need of proper chain. We in India, we do have public distribution shops, but how much they are efficient, this is the question. For both of these to happen, there has to be sufficient revenue, of course, and adequate quantity of ration with the government. Most government used to say that they are not dearth of ration, they are having sufficient amount and this, that. In case of any insufficiency, the people of that country are likely to suffer much more. The second set of policy measures has to be adopted after the lockdown is lifted. The economic policy has to be designed in such a way that various sectors of the economy gets support in reestablishing themselves. For this, governments have to undertake policies to increase aggregate demand. And we know that what aggregate demand can play in increasing the level of economy. This we already know from our macroeconomic knowledge. Since the capacity to produce is already there in the economy, but production was drastically reduced due to lockdown, an increase in an aggregate demand will bring the economy back on track. Governments in many countries have announced relief packages. Central banks in many countries have slashed interest rates. Reduction in interest rates makes borrowing available at cheaper rate and encourages spending to boost the economy. In India, since June onward, the lockdown is being eased out and areas and districts of the country are being demarked as red, orange, and green zones so that economic activities can restart in green zones. In green zones, economic activities can be done without any restrictions, and in orange zone with some restriction. However, the red zones, the lockdown has to continue. Few days ago, a package of 20 lakh crores of rupees has been announced by the Indian government. Imagine the level, the volume, 20 lakh crores. This 20 lakh crore is about 10% of India's total GDP. US Senate has also passed a 2 trillion package to help the US economy recover from the unemployment and fall in GDP. However, the Reuters suggests that the path to recovery may not be smooth. It is likely to be a U-shaped and not V or W-shaped because it is not restricted to economic crisis. It is much more than that. Lakhs of migrant workers have returned to their native places, and it is, for the time being, difficult for them to come back soon. It will take time for them to reconcile the situation, and then they will feel safe and will come back to their works. Look, like we saw the historical stories we have just mentioned at the beginning, a disease of the pandemic scale will impact economies adversely, and current pandemic is no different. The economies are impacted so much that laborers are migrating, middle class has lost jobs, service sectors have incurred huge losses, economies themselves have suffered a lot. At this point of time, what can be said is, at the most, the crisis is likely to continue till the end of this year. But we know that every dark cloud has some silver lining. This crisis has also generated some opportunity at macro levels, where internationally the governments are collaborating each other in all possible ways. They are trying to facilitate and fund the research to generate the vaccine. One example can be seen that when the Indian government supplied medicines to America at the request of American government, of course, but it is quite likely that the inventors will patent the vaccine when they invent it, which must not be the case. A vaccine to the pandemic like COVID-19 must be considered a global product, a product which should be known as world public good, and this should be made available to all countries at no extra costs. If there is any cost, it should be the government to bear it. In the meantime, at some industry level, few visible opportunities have been generated, like technologies are being used in more flexible and sophisticated way, such as IT sector. Most importantly, a serious need of technology and R&D has presented itself in the healthcare sector. An infrastructure to mitigate the risk of such pandemics. There should be technological infrastructure for reliable disease surveillance system and investments in technologies to improve sanitation and provisioning of clean water. The pollution must be controlled. The pollution level that we have in this lockdown period is far better than the period when we had no pandemic, when we were not suffering at all. We were moving fast in their economies. A stronger and much more efficient healthcare system we need, nutritional awareness, and most importantly, in monitoring of epidemic readiness must be the focus of rapidly changing technological landscape. With this, I wish to finish my talk, and I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Anamika, you can invite your listeners to any question, any queries. I'm here.
Yes.
Thank you
Now,
very much.
second half will be moderated by our coordinator, ma'am, for humanities, Mrs. Sonam Jalan. So she will be moderating now. So any questions she'll be asking from the participants, if there is any. Over to you, Sonam.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir, for your insightful information. Now, I'd like to request all our participants to flow up the questions, please. The floor is open for you. I'd like to ask Shivram, sir, to ask his question, please. Shivram, sir, over to you.
Thank you. Yes. Are you listening to me?
Yes,
Hello?
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You clear.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Sonam ma'am. Thank you, Anamika ma'am. Thank you, your Professor Ananda Kumar, for your comprehensive presentation. It's quite satisfactory. It's quite satisfactory and convincing to all of us. But I do have a little different question, whether that may be suitable at this point or not. But I could not stay away without asking question, because I have been a student of Indian foreign policy. I have been going through Indian foreign policy changes and the way overall Indian strategic changes. And when I got an Indian professor right in front of me, why should not I ask about India's economic policy? That's about RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which it was supposed to be completed last November. But India opted out from that. So isn't it a contradiction in Indian policy? It's on the one hand, India is saying to have a more economic engagement with East Asian countries, particularly ASEAN and plus countries, but staying away means, isn't it a contradiction in policy that hampers India in long run? Or what impacts that will have to the region? Maybe that may have an impact to Nepal as well.
No, there is no contradiction. What happened earlier, before you say, you can understand in this way, the policy undertaken before the pandemic, a normal period. There is no controversy, no contradiction. The reason is very simple. The Indian government wants that the economy should be based, the Indian economy should be based on self-reliance.
Yeah.
Whatever we have, at least for the essential goods, comfort goods, and for some luxury goods also, we should not be dependent on foreign sector, for export sector, right? We should not do much of imports so that India can produce itself. And you see, even in this pandemic period, what the government is saying, the Indian government is saying, that we have an opportunity, we see an opportunity that those industries, worldwide industries I'm talking about, those industries which are planning to shut down their offices and manufacturing unit in China, the Indian governments are planning to give them a warm welcome, a red carpet welcome, so that India can have more of such industries itself. And for that reason, you see that Indian government is planning to formulate a full set of detailed policies by which foreign companies, multinationals, can enter to this country. This policy is not in contradiction, it is in continuation. it is in continuation in the sense that earlier also you see the since go back to 1990 when India
90s, yeah.
adopted,
Yeah.
when India shifted its paradigm, policy paradigm,
Yeah.
from almost a closed type public sector emphasis and all that to economic liberalization, more of
Yeah.
globalization, liberalization and all that. Since then, the policy paradigm is not shifting, rather it is becoming strengthened and continuing since then. The present government is also following the same path. You see, most of the private sector are being encouraged and are given 20 lakh crores of rupees. Imagine, 10% of India's GDP are being allocated not for public sector. This is mainly to help private sector. So there, we can't say that there is a shift in the policy. It is not shifting. Economic policies are basically continuing. So of course, before 1990, we are certainly changing. Compared to that period, we have a lot of change. We have a paradigm shift. We have a policy shift, no doubt. But since then, last say 30 years, we are continuing with the same policy. Whosoever is running the government, barring that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Professor, for your
Yeah.
for your convincing
Thank you.
answer. That satisfies me again.
Yeah.
Any more questions, please? Sanjeev sir?
Yeah, actually, I have a question. May I proceed?
Yes, sir, please.
Actually, I want to know how the government, the Indian government has set the package for financial services there in India, because the stock market and other financial intermediaries, they hold a substantial part in the economy, and they have been providing many more jobs to people out there. Like there are many more the partners of stock market. So how the government of India is planning to facilitate those organizations that can be financial packages or other service packages? What kind of reform or what kind of services the government is initiating for them to proceed on their way?
Look, packages are at macro level, that banks are given these finances, these say sum of monies, 20 lakh of rupees. 20 lakh of rupees are not coming directly to industries. They will come through financial institutions. Banks are given this responsibility that you have to allocate these resources so that these resources are used for manufacturing and other sectors. Say, for example, service sectors. If someone wants to restart its own business, they will get a rehabilitation package. If someone wants to restart new business, they will get the loan without much of interest. The interest rate has to be lowered. So with this, Indian government is planning to rehabilitate the economy. It's not that it is going to plan a certain 5 or 6% of growth. Basically, the pandemic has created the problem of economic slowdown, meaning thereby the GDP will fall. If this pandemic continues, as I already told you, that it is going to continue at least for 1 year, as predictions are coming. So if it continues for 1 year and the lockdown is for half of the country or quarter of the country area, quarter area of the country have been locked down. See, even today, we had information that yesterday in Bombay and Delhi, there were 3,000 cases, new cases in just 2 cities in India. So there has to be, some measures have to be taken. And for that reason, the Indian government has planned to reconstruct the economy first, and then we'll see what growth and how growth will take up. So it is not that you cannot leave the current situation and think about the future altogether. You have to see the both. The current situation is that you have to find solutions for the problems. Medical solution is not there. Therefore, people will have to be made aware about the pandemic, that they have to live, they may have to live with the corona pandemic case without the solution, medical solution for, let's say, till the time vaccines are developed. This is what the situation is. It is really a very grave situation we are unable to face. You can compare this situation to almost a centuries ago's situation around 1918 period, almost 100 years back, 101 years back, where the pandemic was very, very severe. 50 crores people were infected. At this moment, of course, the number is less. It is almost touching 70 lakh people being infected world over. Okay. Hello.
Thank you, sir. Sanjeev sir, I hope your question has been answered. Now next, Yashodhara ma'am. I would like to request Yashodhara ma'am to ask the question, please.
Please.
Yashodhara ma'am. I guess she's not being able to listen to me. We have a student asking a question, sir. Diksha Giri, please come up with your question, please.
Okay, ma'am. Namaste, sir. I'm Diksha Giri. And
Namaste.
firstly,
Hello,
I
welcome.
like, thank you, sir. Firstly, I like to thank you very much for your astonishing gesture towards all of us. It's really a great privilege to get an opportunity to interact with you. And so my question goes like
Nice. Same
this.
is here. Same is here. Tell me.
Yes, sir. As we are in the initial stage of this digitalization area, how this digitalization and economic state around the city area and rural area can be stabilized after this crisis. And we know that we are going through both digitalization as well as economic crisis at this current situation. How can we help grow and modernize economic condition in rural areas, sir?
One minute. I would like to just add something to this question. My question was almost same, so I would like to add a little bit to it. Like how digital entrepreneurs will shape the world after COVID-19 pandemic. So because we are going this online, everything is we are going through a digitalization revolution, I should say, during this lockdown period. So I just want to add a little bit to it, to Diksha's questions, that how digital entrepreneurs will shape the world after the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yeah. Fine. Should I answer it? Okay. Hello.
Over
Hello.
to you, sir.
Fine.
Yes, sir.
Look, what happens, since the world has already having a level of development on digital platform, we find that most of the countries in the world have already been using a lot of electronic system, electronic platforms. Say, for example, in India, we have some 30 lakh digital centers throughout the country, which have been supported by the government. Imagine most of the exams, right, competitive exams, are now not on offline, they are online. Students used to go to computer centers, they used to appear for their papers, and they give the papers. So there are a lot of facilities already developed, and certainly this COVID-19 pandemic has warranted much more requirement for this digital platform, which has to be developed throughout the world, throughout the places. Imagine in 100 years back, when we had this pandemic, 50 crore people were suffering. Out of 50 crore, 10 crore died. This time, because of digital knowledge available with the people of world over, they are very quickly made aware of this situation, of this pandemic, this disease. The warning have been given very quickly. The masses reaches within a second, fraction of seconds. People used to open their televisions, mobiles, mobile phones, and laptops, and all digital platform that they have, digital devices they have. They use those platforms, get aware, and plan their action according to those information. This is what you find in almost every field. Even poor people, low income people have mobile phones. In India, out of say 130 crores of people, almost 100 crore of people are having mobile phones. Meaning thereby, at least in a family, there are 2-3 mobile phones available with them. So it is not that you can't say that this 30-40 crore people are not using mobile phones. It is not. All of them are using mobile phones. Because in a family, if some younger people, younger person, son or daughter, at the age of 20, 30, 40, they are having a mobile phone. The mobile phone can be utilized by every one of the family. So this is the situation. People are using these devices, these electronic devices, and they are keeping themselves aware about the problems. And with this, certainly, coming back to the next part, that about how this digital set up the manufacturing sector, how it will impact the manufacturing sector. No doubt, most of the goods and services are now put on online sale. People used to buy goods and services. We used to earlier, there was say some 30, 40 years back, there was hardly any malls available. People used to go to traditional shops and buy goods and services there. And after that, the mall culture developed. And after mall culture, the digital culture will develop. And this pandemic has warranted this development, that most of the industries, most of the service sector even, will have to digitalize themselves, will have to inform all the customers, potential customers, in order to keep them safe, in order to reduce the cost of delivery, cost of marketing, selling, and all that. So the various policies will have to be designed by private sector, by private manufacturing sector as well. And certainly government's role is to support them, to have broadband, fast speed broadbands and all that. This is what the support at public goods level have to be done, that governments will have to do. Otherwise, those governments which will not do, they will not only lag behind, they will be called backward as well.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir, for the information. Now, any more questions? Are we having any more questions? Yashodhara ma'am, were you asking a question, please?
I think we are done with the questions answer round, and I think it's
Okay,
time
ma'am.
to wrap up the session.
Yes, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anand sir, for sharing your views with us. Let's hope we'll be soon out of this crisis, this health crisis, which is being translated to an economic crisis. We'll be out from this crisis as soon as possible. So let's hope for the best. And thank you so much for coming and sharing your views so openly, with an open heart. Thank you so much. We are delighted.
Thank you very much, all of you. I really appreciate your efforts. And
Thank you so much.
at the end, I want to tell you one thing, that sooner or later, the vaccine will be developed, no doubt about this. I have full optimism on this count. And once the vaccine is generated and distributed to all the population world over, right, we will be back again on the roads and on our jobs. The most suffering sector, of course, is the education sector, I tell you.
Yes, yes.
The colleges are closed, schools are closed. The administration is saying that take online classes, take online exams, and these are certainly we are not tuned to. The reason is there are a lot of flaws on this system. There are a lot of flaws, lot of question of genuineness, security, so many things crop up. The student, when they interact with teachers face to face, they have a different experience. They cannot have this experience online. So one thing is sure, that education is going to suffer much more in this lockdown period. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
but we will be out.
Anamika ma'am,
Ajur, Ajur.
I want to ask one question. Internet connection, Vana, So
We have 2 minutes left, so a little bit quickly.
okay. So, sir, about 9% students are benefiting from online education in Nepal. It shows
9%.
most of the families do not have internet facility and unable to take classes. What type
Yeah,
of macroeconomic policy will be suitable for Nepalese economy in this situation?
true. That it has to be expanded. There is no other option available with the government. If government wants, if government is serious, and if government is responsible for their countrymen, government has to expand the digital platform. It has to reach to every last person in the country. Without that, as just I told you, that education is going to suffer a lot. Even there is electronic platform. If there is less availability of electronic forms, a student will suffer like anything. They will not have even the help from internet. Imagine. With the use of internet and digital platform, let me finish. With the use of internet and digital platform, at least we are able to communicate little bit. May not be to the extent that we used to have in our classrooms, physical classrooms, but at least we may be able to contact our students, talk to them if they have any queries. For example, I have taken so many online classes during the lockdown to my eco-honors students, and many of them just did not bother to come on that platform. But 50% of them were serious. They talked to me and they came, with their queries and with their lessons. And if this was not available, this was not possible even. There is no option, if it is not possible for me to be physically present in Nepal, in Kathmandu, this is say you can say this is a substitute. The substitute may not be perfect, but it is a substitute. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Lovely.
namaste to all of you. Namaskar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much
Thank you, sir.
for your precious time. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Bye bye. All the best.